And welcome to another episode of the UFO Show. I believe episode 26. That's what we have written down. That's pretty incredible knowing that, how far we've come here. Andy, how are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. How about yourself, Adam?
I'm good. Lots going on today. We may have some breaking Whitecaps news during the show, and if that happens, we'll let you guys know about that. There's some stuff in the works with the Whitecaps, so we'll see what happens there. But we're gonna start the show talking a little Canucks, and in case you missed the news today, they did make a hire, and they're bringing in Rachel Dory from might know her from the Hockey News or Elite Prospect. She worked for the New Jersey Devils. She's coming into the analytic department, and this is a fantastic hire. Andy and I had a chance to talk to her before the season started, and it's great to see that the Canucks are making smart hires that are going to benefit the team in positive ways.
Yeah, for sure. Like you mentioned, we had her on the show, I want to say first week of this NHL season, maybe the week before. Really interesting person to talk to. I think she had some good perspectives on, sort of the analytics models and how they can translate to hockey games and kind of, her thoughts on some teams. So I think it's a great hire. I'm really excited to see what she can do.
Now, the only problem with the hire is that she has said that she's going to keep her her Toronto FC fandom. So that's definitely a story to watch. You come to Vancouver, you can't cheer for a Toronto team.
It's true.
Yeah. So hopefully the Whitecaps play well enough that they're able to change her mind about cheering for Toronto FC.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. It depends on this big news that you're hinting at, I guess.
Yes. It's possible it doesn't get announced by the end, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so speaking of Canucks, we're gonna jump in here with one NHL game for this weekend. The Canucks are playing the Florida Panthers tomorrow. Now, Florida is playing in Edmonton tonight, which means that we're probably going to see Spencer Knight in goal tomorrow. Right now, the Panthers are at minus 158 on the money line, and Canucks are at plus 122. Now, in normal circumstances, you would look at this and say, listen, Florida is going into Edmonton. Edmonton's a desperate team. Florida's going to be tired when they come tomorrow. But the problem is that the Vancouver Canucks are very possibly going to be starting either Spencer Martin or Mikey DiPietro in net. They're going to be without their top point getter, JT Miller. So, Andy, what do you think of this? What do you think of their chances tomorrow?
Yeah, not good. Like you said, I think the team is still waiting on confirmation that Miller and Demko are out for tomorrow's game with, their COVID tests. But operating on the assumption that those players will not be available, in my opinion, Florida's the best team in the league, and you're asking the best team in the league to come into Vancouver without their all-star goalie and their top point getter. I don't see how the Canucks could win that game. So if I was to be betting money on this, minus 158 on the money line sounds good. Minus 1.5 goals for Florida plays out at plus 150. I'd probably be on that one too.
And it's important to note about this Canuck game tomorrow. These are both from positive COVID tests today through the rapid testing system. They're now going to go through a PCR testing and then one more test tomorrow. So if they get two negatives tonight and tomorrow, they could both be available for the game. So it's a little bit tense because now you're looking at a situation where the Canucks could be without Thatcher Demko at least for the next week, while Yaroslav Halak comes out of COVID protocol and serves as quarantine in Vancouver. So now tomorrow they could be missing Halak, Demko, Connor Garland, and Bo Horvat, and JT Miller. So it will be an interesting game, that's for sure. We know that Canucks and Panthers before the COVID break and before last time they played, last couple times the games have gone a little bit chippy near the end. So we'll see if that animosity continues 2 years later. on home ice. It wasn't really chippy when they played last time in Florida, but so maybe that's just a circumstance of not seeing each other for 2 years.
Yeah, it wasn't chippy, but I think it was JT Miller who had a fight right after a goal, if I remember correctly. I think it was he fought Radko Gudas, so you never know, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into where the big money is this weekend. And before we start, let's just mention the sponsor, Bet99 Sportsbook at bet99.com. So if you head over to the Area51sportsnetwork.com website, click under betting, there is a page there. Whenever money you put up to $600 into bet99.com using that link, you will get back as a bonus that you can spend. So make sure to check that out at area51sportsnetwork.com/betting and use the link. So we do have the NFL this week. We'll start off with one game that it's going to be interesting, watching this line, because the Cincinnati Bengals and Tennessee Titans is the game we're talking about here, but Derrick Henry has resumed practicing, and they say that he should be good to go at game time. Now, this game is Saturday, so it's the first game on Saturday, which means they do have a little bit less time than, Sunday night game. But if he is declared completely healthy, 100%, do you see that line increasing for Tennessee? Right now, they're at -180 on the money line and -3.5 points.
Maybe a little bit. I think -180 is still a fairly heavy favorite for Tennessee. If you look at the team, I think Cincinnati has the better receivers, the better quarterback. The question for me always comes down to Cincinnati's offensive line. Can they protect Joe Burrow? Last week versus the Raiders, the Raiders got a bit of pressure. I think overall the line did okay. It wasn't great. Like Burrow still got hit a lot, but the Raiders weren't able to take over that game. Tennessee isn't really known as like a super, pass rush heavy, good pass rush type team, right? Like they can get some sacks, but they don't have any Aaron Donalds on their side of the field. So right now, I mean, I'd probably be leaning towards the Bengals in this game, assuming Henry does not play. If Henry does play, I think Tennessee probably just runs the ball and milks the clock and tries to win a low scoring game. So, like you mentioned, there's a lot of betting swings here that could happen depending on the status of Derrick Henry.
Now, I definitely, like the idea of the Bengals for this game. My only issue is that, what's the word? Like, they played so tight, and so, like, the Raiders game was a little bit too close for me. Like, the Raiders got in on the very last day of the season, and the Bengals are, supposed to be this high-flying offense that can, bury teams, and it came up to an interception the last play of the game for the Bengals. Like, I don't know. I just feel like I really like the Bengals in this game, but I'm not 100% confident that they can, play to the level that's needed, that they're only going to get, like maybe 3 drives a half because of how Tennessee plays.
Yeah, well, that's the concern, right? Is that every time Tennessee gets the ball, they have a 5, 6, 7, 8 minute drive. Like you said, Burrow might only get 5, 6, 7 opportunities the whole game to score points. So that's kind of my rationale on that one.
So let's jump into the second game here that, you have a little bit of interest in. The 49ers at the Green Bay Packers. Now, Green Bay -225, 49ers at +195. I know you're going to pick the Green Bay Packers in this game. Like, we don't have to discuss that you're picking Green Bay because that's what's going to happen. But I will say this. It seems like the team that Green Bay has the most trouble with every year is the San Francisco 49ers. Like, it's something about the 49ers and Rodgers that there's like a mental block there where he can't beat, he's beat them in the past, but it just seems like the 49ers, regardless of where their team is, they kind of have the upper hand on Rodgers.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look, it's kind of funny because when they play during the day, um, Rogers has a pretty good record, but I think his last three primetime games, he's 0-3. That includes a Thursday night football loss a couple years ago, a Sunday night football loss, and then, of course, 2 years ago in the playoffs, they lost as well to San Francisco. Thing I'm looking for in this game, Lambeau is going to be very cold. It's supposed to be like -10, -15 Fahrenheit, which I don't know what that is Celsius, but it's going to be close to -30. It's going to be freezing cold. Garoppolo traditionally struggles in the colder weather. He's not 100% healthy. San Francisco still has some questions on their defense. Is Bosa going to be able to play? Fred Warner says he's going to play, but he's also coming off a significant injury. Really, the play I like in this game is whatever prop you can get on Aaron Rodgers touchdowns. Right now, over 2.5 pays plus 158. I'd even see if you can get up to 3.5 or 4.5. Like, I don't really see this game being necessarily that close. I think the Packers get out to an early lead, and probably in the second half they kind of just run the ball to kill the clock. So, yeah, I don't see this game being very competitive. But you are right. The one weird thing about Green Bay is that no matter how good their team has been, they've kind of always sort of struggled under the bright lights for San Francisco for some reason.
Now, you're going with the Aaron Rodgers as a, as a game prop here. I'm actually going to go with somebody from the 49ers here. And let me just grab it up here. I'm going to go with Deebo Samuel for receiving yards in this game. If you, for Deebo Samuel, I'm going to go with 94 plus yards at plus 168. So at least 94 receiving yards, and that gets you 20 on a $10 deposit. That gets you 26.80 right now. I just think that I know that they like to run the ball with Deebo Samuel. He's kind of like what's the the court what's the receiver turned running back that the Packers had a couple years ago?
Oh, Ty Montgomery.
Yes, that's kind of who he reminds me of, but better a little bit. He reminds me of a better Ty Montgomery. Yeah, like he's gonna get his receiving yards, he's gonna get his rushing yards, and the offense runs through him. We saw it last week as well. I think it was the first play of the game. There was a handoff to Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what you're thinking. However, I would be looking at the Samuel all-purpose yards or rushing yards. I think, like I mentioned, Garoppolo is a little bit banged up. Packers are getting, a few of their defensive players back. I think there's going to be lots of pressure on Garoppolo. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity to really throw the ball deep downfield, which is where Samuel does a lot of his damage, reception yards wise. So I like your thinking of Samuel in the yards, but I'd be leaning towards more of a rushing or an all-purpose yardage type of bet.
But what I'll throw out about sometimes with statistics, what you have to remember is like if there's certain run plays that are considered passes as well.
That is true.
So I think it's it's not a end around, but I think it's like if the ball is pitched to the receiver doing an end around, then it's considered a
pass.
A pass. But what we have to remember about Garoppolo is that he's doing this like Garoppolo isn't a deep threat right now. There is a little bit of concern that he only threw for 172 yards last year, so that might affect Deebo Samuel. So if you can find an all-purpose yards, maybe in that 90 to 100 range, that probably is a very good bet to take. He'll probably get more than 90 all-purpose yards for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's jump here into the next game, which is a game that a lot of people think is going to that the winner of this game is going to the Super Bowl. The LA Rams versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, the Bucs are the favorite at -135. The Rams are at +120. They are traveling to Tampa Bay for this game. And the LA Rams, we saw what they could do against the Cardinals last week. We know the powerful offense that they have. Their defense is maybe one of the best, from on paper that we've seen in NFL history, with guys like um, Aaron Donald. You have guys like Von Miller on that team, Jalen Ramsey. Like the list just goes on. So this would be a very intriguing matchup because it is really defense versus defense here.
Yeah, to me, this is going to be an interesting game. Just looking at these two teams, I think the Buccaneers' biggest weakness, I guess you could call it, on offense is the biggest strength of the Rams on defense, and that's getting pressured on the quarterback, especially up the middle. Aaron Donald, probably the best defensive player in the NFL. He's typically playing defensive tackle, maybe a bit of defensive end. He's going to be all over Brady. Rams have Von Miller. If you look at the game last week that you mentioned versus the Cardinals, there was one play, I think it was the Kyler Murray interception on the goal line. And, Aaron Donald didn't get credited with a sack or an interception on that play. But what he did, he lined up a defensive tackle, pretended to come on a rush and sort of backed off into a zone. And that froze Kyler Murray for half a second, which allowed Von Miller to get to Murray and hit him, which caused Murray to, throw up the ball for some stupid reason and ended up being a pick six. So that's just sort of a good demonstration of the impact that Aaron Donald can have, is that he doesn't necessarily have to be the one getting sacks or hitting the quarterback to have a huge impact. So if you're asking me for my pick, I like the Rams here at plus 120. However, I do think it's going to be, a last second field goal or even a game that goes to overtime. It's going to be a very close, competitive game.
Yeah, and that makes sense because the line is at 3 at the moment. So that's definitely going to be a close game. I want to, I want to see the Rams win this game because I think it's really cool when the home team plays in their home stadium for the Super Bowl. And I think there was like a statistic that said that in years that Nick Saban has lost the national championship, Tom Brady doesn't win the Super Bowl. So, Nick Saban lost the championship. So maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing here.
Yeah, potentially. Personally, from a Packers fan's point of view, I'd rather play the Rams in the NFC Championship than the Buccaneers. So a little extra incentive, I guess, for me to be cheering for LA.
And then we'll jump into the very last game of the weekend. Many are calling this, the best game of the weekend. A lot of people predict that whoever wins this is going to the Super Bowl, just like the Rams versus the Buccaneers game. And it is the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Right now, the line is at Kansas City at minus 120 with Buffalo at plus 105. I am going to take the Bills here. I think that this is going to be just an offensive shootout like a couple of years ago when they had that Monday night game where it was the LA Rams versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and both teams put up 50 points. I could see that. My one concern is weather with this game. So we'll see what happens with it. I know that it is in Kansas City, but if my understanding is correct, sometimes the weather is a little it's very windy sometimes. If it was in Buffalo, this would be a completely different story because they might have to run every play, but we'll see how the wind picks up in Kansas City. We know that it's one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL. Where are you going with your pick this week?
By a slight margin, I think I like Kansas City. Josh Allen's a great quarterback. Kansas City does have a questionable defense, but I think Kansas City is really starting to find their stride. Kelsey had a big game last week. Tyreek Hill had a big game. Mahomes has been really heating up the last few days, few weeks, I should say. And if you look at the line, it's basically a pick 'em, right? It's Bills are a 2-point favorite and they're plus 105 on the money line. So kind of factoring that in, I don't see enough juice in betting the Bills at plus 105. I think I'd rather just take the home favorite in this game.
Yeah, so there's just checking on the weather in Kansas City right now where the stadium is. It is supposed to have 16 kilometers of wind. So kicking game might be a little bit of a problem for some of the teams, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, expect a high scoring game because even though these two defenses are very, very good, you never really know what can happen when that wind starts hitting 15, 16 kilometers an hour or higher.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like you said, it's anytime you get in the NFL playoffs, late December, January, the weather always becomes a factor. So, I mean, I guess the good thing from an entertainment perspective, like you mentioned, this is in Kansas City and not the snowstorm of Buffalo. So, hopefully, it's a little bit more of an entertaining, high-scoring game. But I agree, this is probably the game of the week, and basically a pick 'em. So, in that case, I'll take the home favorite in Kansas City.
Yeah, so there's lots of interesting ones. What we'll do is we'll look at some of the future bets if you want to put down some bets on like which teams are going to go over to or which teams are going to the Super Bowl, things like that. Now, the AFC conference, we have Kansas City at plus 180, Buffalo at plus 235, Tennessee at plus 320, and then Cincinnati at plus 600. Where are you putting your money for on the AFC?
Probably Tennessee at plus 320. I think Derrick Henry is such an X factor for that team. If you look at the matchup, they're either going to, assuming they beat the Bengals, play Kansas City, who has a terrible defense, terrible run defense, and Buffalo, who doesn't really have the best defense. They're good. I wouldn't say they're great. And those are two teams where I think Tennessee and their run game matches up favorably. So plus 320 seemed like pretty good odds for Tennessee.
And then I'm going to take Buffalo. I think this is their year to make it to as much as I like Cincinnati, but I think it's Buffalo's turn to make it to the AFC or the Super Bowl. So then we have, I'm guessing you're going with the Packers in the NFC at plus 149.
Yes, I thought very, very briefly about putting a bit of money on the Rams. I don't trust Matt Stafford. He's even last game, he missed some throws. He, for some reason, he just doesn't seem like he's with it right now. So Packers plus 149 would be my pick.
I'm going to go with the value bet here at the LA Rams plus 360. They've shown all year that they can show up in big games, and they're playing in their home stadium if they make it to the Super Bowl. And I think that is a lot of motivation for the team. That you get this opportunity, you've come this far, and you get this opportunity to play in your home stadium in front of your home fans and win the Super Bowl. I think that might be enough momentum to push them over the top. And then Super Bowl, I'm guessing you're going with the Green Bay Packers. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. The Green Bay Packers are paying out a plus 330, and Buffalo's paying out a plus 500. I think that's safe to say, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Packers. The only team really that scares me for the Packers to have to play is Tennessee, again, because the Packers have a questionable run defense. I know I just picked Tennessee to make it through to the Super Bowl. So if I wasn't going to pick Green Bay, I guess I'd put a bit of money on Tennessee at plus 780.
Now, what Bet99 does do is they have bets based off of what they each team and who's going to be in the Super Bowl. So for the Cincinnati Bengals versus the Green Bay Packers, it is plus 1,500 right now. So if you put plus 1,500, or that's the betting on Bet99 for the Packers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The best odds are KC versus Green Bay, which is expected here. But for mine, let me just find it here if they have it, because I will go with the Buffalo Bills versus the LA Rams at plus 1,300 for my pick as the Super Bowl matchup. So if you do want to put down some money, those are pretty good odds, to try to guess the matchup in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just trying to find, maybe you have it in front of you. You can tell me what Tennessee versus Green Bay would be.
The Tennessee Titans versus the Green Bay Packers is paying out at plus 1,000 right now.
So again, pretty good odds. I guess I picked those teams to win their conference, so that would mean they would match up in the Super Bowl. So that would be my pick.
Yeah. So the Bet99 has all types of odds when it comes to NFL. You can bet on different statistics like who's going to have the most passing yards, who's going to have the most rushing yards, who's going to be the Super Bowl MVP. You also have stage of elimination. So which, our team's going to get eliminated this week, next week, or are they going to make it to the Super Bowl? We also do have some odds on the first overall pick for the NFL draft. So, Bet99 is definitely your home for all of your bets, and making sure that you can make sure to check them out. So, as we did mention, there was some Whitecaps news and now it's official. The Vancouver Whitecaps have officially traded goaltender Maxime Crépeau to the LA. Yeah, they have traded him to LAFC for $1 million in general allocation money, plus additional incentives based off of Crépeau's play. And on top of that, they also get a 2025 first round pick. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this for the last couple days, ever since it's been reported. There's been talk that, this is a move that Crépeau wanted. He kind of angled for this move for family reasons to hop out of Vancouver. But, it's another MVP lost. They had a list that talked about guys like Camilo, YP Lee, Ali Adnan. All of these guys were MVPs for the Whitecaps, and then the next year they're gone. So what do you think of the Whitecaps going forward now that they've lost their MVP?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I'm more of a casual soccer watcher, I guess you could call it. So I don't necessarily understand all the intricacies of the GAM and the CAM and the draft picks and that kind of thing, right? But like you mentioned, looking on the surface, I don't see how this makes the Whitecaps a stronger team. They lost their starting goalie and their team MVP. So from that perspective, I mean, definitely disappointing. As you mentioned, it does seem like this wasn't really the team's idea. It was more so accommodating a player and his request for his family. So, what can you do, right? I mean, wish Max all the best. And, as a Whitecaps fan, it does suck that they lose this player.
And, speaking of it, I don't understand all of the different allocation monies and targeted and the difference. And I watch almost every game of the Whitecaps and keep up with them. So you're not alone in your boat that says, what does it mean by general allocation versus targeted and things like that. I'm sure that people understand it, but it is one of the most complicated systems for paying players that I think I've ever seen, because you can somehow acquire a player using half targeted and half general allocation for somehow. So I don't know how that works exactly, but big loss for the Whitecaps. This was a fan favorite. Other guys who left right after got guys like Kendall Waston, Alfonso Davies. So there's something about, if you're the team MVP, well, maybe you start, it's like you start packing your suitcase right afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. It will be interesting to see what the Whitecaps do with this trade and the transfer money they receive, if they address another goalie or if they try to strengthen up front or on defense. I guess from a positive perspective, it opens up a lot of options. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. And for fans, it must be frustrating because, when you invest in a jersey, like I have a Kendall Waston jersey, when you invest in a player, it's not like hockey where the players usually stick around for a while. You can invest in a player and have the player gone at the end of the year. So it is kind of frustrating. The Whitecaps were building to this fantastic end to the season. Max Crépeau is probably on the path to be Canada's starting goalie at the World Cup. And then this trade happens. But hopefully Thomas Hasal can step up in that place. We wish Max Crépeau nothing but the best here in Vancouver. Hopefully his family situation is a little bit better now after the trade. And Whitecaps actually get started later on this month. They're heading down to San Diego to play 4 games before they start their MLS regular season. So if you are interested in that portion of soccer, make sure to follow some of our Area 51 guys like at Joshua Ray 91, at Joshua Griffiths 0, and then Josh also hosts the brand new Terminal City FC, which talks football from all over the world, including the Vancouver Whitecaps. So lots of Whitecaps action here on the Area 51 Sports Network. And if you head over to the website, once the season gets started, there will also be some articles. So make sure to check that out. Exciting things happening here at Area 51, especially when it comes to the Whitecaps.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
So that will do it for this week, episode 26 of the UFO Show here on the Area 51 Sports Network. Make sure, once again, to check out bet99.com for that $600 promotion. So whatever you put in, Bet99 will match up to $600. So for Andy, I'm Adam, and thank you very much for watching this week's episode.